thank you all for a really great film. Eugene, I want to start with you on this. I've been reading some of the reviews already out. A tapestry of personal vignettes, they record and bear witness to an existence and a community that absolutely needs to be seen. The film asks what Asian American and API can hold and what those terms might mean, amongst many other things. When you thought of how to approach this film, what was your objective and how did it turn out?
The objective was not to get canceled. I mean, because when you think about that term, AAPI, Asian American,
right?
Like, who do you think of? What does that person look like? Do they look like me? Do they look like Jada? Maybe not Timothy, but do they look like Rekha? Do they look like Madelyn? I mean, usually you'll be talking about someone who looks like you or I. Mm-hmm. But I think those kinds of questions really, one, throw the whole term into question, and secondly, made us really want to make sure that we maintain balance. So we basically approached it kind of like a draft, if you will. So East Asia gets 4 people, Southeast Asia gets 4 people, South Asia gets 4 people. You got 2 Pacific Islanders and then 1 wildcard spot.
Did you have an Excel spreadsheet or something?
You think? Spreadsheets. I mean, in the end, upwards of 500 people were considered for inclusion. And I think that just speaks to the capaciousness of the community. I mean, really, if we're talking about people with roots in Asia or the Pacific Islands, it's like half to 2/3 of the world. As well as just the number of stories that need to get out there. So we're happy with the balance we've been able to achieve and happy that at least it seems like as many people as possible are able to be seen and feel seen in the film as they might be. So
awesome. And Timothy, as I was stating in the introduction, the latest installment of your series, why the A-list now? And I know you love all your children. How is this one different?
It's different because Eugene directed it and I directed all the others. And I think why now, it's terribly important in this moment in our country and around the world to make films like this, especially because of the other side, I'll call them, pushing every day to prevent films like this.
And so from the Blacklist until today, what you wanted to do with the Blacklist, how is what you wanted to do different with this film?
The Blacklist started in my kitchen sitting with Toni Morrison, and she had just done written the libretto for an opera and wanted to do a film on Black divas. And that idea morphed into this idea of sort of direct-to-camera portraits of people talking, and it became The Blacklist, the first film. And then here we are, almost 20 years later, making this film.
Right.
I think this was one of the most complicated of the films, just because to choose 15 people was torture. I mean, it was the spreadsheets probably broke Google's. It was just endless conversations with us trying to whittle it down. And in the end,
Nergis said you relished the impossibility of it, the challenge of it.
I watched it again tonight, and I was very moved by it again. So, bravo to everyone here.
Yeah, and if I may actually take a moment to recognize the team members who are here as well. Could you all stand up so we could give you a round of applause? Everybody who is involved. We have quite a few of us here. We roll deep, so thank you all.
All right, house lights, there we go. So how does the team feel? Just give me volume how do you feel right now? That's not volume, that's thumbs. All right, okay, a little tired maybe, perhaps. Okay, thank you to the team being here as well. Jada, you sat also with many of the subjects, and the big thing for me, putting on my journalist hat, is how this is a first of its kind. We have never had a portrait anthology movie in mainstream before. I'm not sure you necessarily got up every morning when you got to sit with these fantastic subjects and said, we're really changing history here. Were you?
No, I didn't even know that we were the first tour guide until tonight, but I also thank you all for coming out. This is great. I think that what struck me the most about what we were doing was how intentional this team was, including our producer, Chad Thompson, of putting together a really extraordinary group of people, but also a crew that reflected what we were seeing on camera. And so basically, as many people as we could who were AAPI NH, we got in the room and we would crowdsource the questions with each other. And I was just thinking, like Nosheen is our cinematographer, and we had so many different skin tones, and so different people would sort of be able to sit in the chair so that she could adjust the lighting. And I feel like
I know the feeling, by the way, yes.
and that's how, I feel that's how we got such rich interviews, is because everyone knew they were speaking in a safe room.
How did you get to safety?
I don't know. I would ask these folks who actually had to give so much of themselves, but I do think, it was a learning process for me Yi is one of our first interviews, and I think there's a whole history of the Hmong people on camera, and I think it took an hour for me to get into the real meat of the questions, and as it went on, I think we got there quicker.
DJ Rekha, there are those folks that you try to give a title, the lower third in TV, DJ Rekha, and then we try to fit in all the titles that explain who they are. You would be one of the most difficult to put the lower third down. But let me just ask this. Who are you?
I don't know. Who are you?
I like this already.
I'm who I am wherever I need to be.
Yeah.
It's I said it before, is that identity is, to me, sometimes situational.
Yeah.
And
slippery slope is what I remember you saying.
Yeah, slippery slope. And situational and multiple and complicated, and you can be many things at once, and some, you can dispense of things, and things keep changing and evolving, and sometimes we are pegged to identities we don't choose, like nation states we belong to that we don't necessarily want to. My country of origin, or my current residency, is in the country of Queens, so that is my nation state. And so those things. So I do think
I haven't got my passport yet.
Yeah, I know people from this island have a hard time. It's really not that far. And there's more than food and airports. But I think I definitely strongly identify as a DJ. That is definitely one of my strong identities, and it's in the name.
Yeah, no, DJ Rekha also is this ability to be, if I may have so many fluencies, right? One of them, if I had to, it does not work in the lower third, but that you're really a master of the zeitgeist, right? You're getting a sense of how to reach people through your skills. Music is one way, but as we were talking, you have many different fluencies that are now adjacent to it that you've developed over the years. And at your young age right now, we were saying there's a lot ahead.
I hope so. I love lots of different things.
Yeah.
But
why did you start to put more of these things into your identity? I know you weren't thinking, I'm going to add this to my identity.
I say in the film, I was, I embraced my identity and who I was from day one. I was proud of it. That was instilled from my mom, who fed it. I grew up in a very strong, maybe slightly insular community, but I enjoyed many things about it, and I always wanted to feel represented. And I think the power of seeing yourself in any context is so powerful. Seeing yourself represented in any kind of way as an individual really means a lot. One day, there was a documentary on tigers, and my dad was watching it, and I said, "Why are you watching this documentary on tigers. He goes, because it's Indian. I go, Dad, do you really want to watch this? He's like, actually, no, this is boring. I go, exactly. You know, like, so it's like we're so desperate sometimes, or wanting to need and feel a connection. And I think we can have connections on multiple levels. And in terms of my fluencies, it's like, you know, I have a pack rat brain. I like to like just absorb everything, watch movies. Don't tell me a name of a movie, I'll watch it within the next 24 hours, Salim. And, you know, like I like to read books, and that's just me. I'm a sponge.
Yeah, a great sponge. Madelyn, same question. Who are you?
A Filipino, an American, a nurse, a mother, a grandma, a sister, a friend to you.
Yeah, you can clap. You know, Madelyn, when we talk about the A-list and all of the diasporas over 50 in this great country, that this film is sharing with the world, that tip of that iceberg. For you, as you were going through this journey when they were commenting on your English, and you didn't know necessarily that wasn't positive, that it potentially had some prejudicial tones. And now today, owning whatever you are and whichever way you talk, tell me about that journey as you were figuring out your identity, which we got to see on screen, and you were so giving. And going through that experience, sometimes I expect folks not to be so giving, but you are still.
Thank you. But before I answer that, can I just give a shout out to the nurses who are here? It's Nurses Week.
Yes.
Come on. I have nurses from New York, nurses from New Jersey, and friends who came with me. Happy Nurses Week. Let's celebrate each other.
And my mom.
And her mom's a nurse too, so
Yes.
thank you for all that you do. And I'm sorry I forgot your question.
That's okay.
So into the nurses now. Anyway.
I was asking you about your resilience, your ability to still be you despite all of the experiences you've had in the journey, and to still be so giving. Like, that's the one thing when I was watching you on screen, I was like, Madelyn is still so, look, you're a nurse, right? And you lead nurses.
Correct. I've always believed that whatever you have, you're a big part of a community, you're a big part of a family, and that's how we are. So when they were mentioning Jada and them saying that I have a big group of people with me, but that's every day. I mean, like, at home I have 4 kids, I have 6 grandkids, and today I have 6 friends with me, and 2 joined from New York. That's normal, that's natural. And again, you've heard from the intro, I was one of 13 children.
Yeah.
Any one of you come from that big a family?
I do.
You do?
Yeah.
Wow.
You should see our Thanksgivings.
I think we should.
Yeah.
So you always have to give, you always have to compromise, you always have to think of the other person. And
Yeah.
I grew up that way. So I brought that trait back here, even as I came to America. And people do not always have good intentions.
Yeah.
But then I said, they probably must just have a really bad day. So you still persist. You are who you are, no matter what the circumstances are. You have to be true to what you do on a daily basis. You cannot pretend.
Eugene, I just want to bottle that up. You know, that is, I mean, when both of you were sitting and interviewing folks like DJ Rekha and then Madelyn and the others, I mean, you just have to smile when you're going through the process and going, these are great people. And so glad you get to share their stories. I think a lot of people in the audience are asking, how did you pick 15? How did you pick the order? What were some of the tough decisions along the way? And that could be all 3 of you reacting, but I'm going to start with you, Eugene, first. What were some of the creative arc tough points?
I mean, given that this film formally is pretty straightforward, like it really is so much about picking the right people. And we knew we wanted some high-profile folks, but we wanted to make sure to highlight heroes in their community, like Madelyn and like Rekha. And so, at least, you know, I don't know if it was formally said, but I think in my mind, I always thought there'd be at least there'd be one very well-known person from each region, but as much as possible, we would try to pick heroes from the community, people who might be less well-known, who could really just sort of share their stories, and whose stories, even though they're not as prominent, are just as powerful and just as important to know, if not more so, because even beyond sort of how important representation is, it's just, it's one thing to sort of have these very famous people there, to see how people are actually living who look like us, that's something that we wanted to get, like the texture of life. And so with that as part of our process, we just sort of went from there and started like launching our asks.
For those of you who are directors, producers, editors, trying to string 15 together in the right arc, well, power to you, right? That's not the easiest thing.
I want to shout out Jean Chen, who is our consulting editor, whose idea was to have Sandra first. So thank you, Jean. And
she's recording you, by the way, too.
That's why I'm saying this.
That's right. Jean is great.
And Anita, who was our associate editor, who I think was the first person who mentioned having Cliff last. And I think as soon as we all talked about that, that just felt right. So yes, thank you. And also to recognize Joanna Giebelhaus, who was our editor proper and who did an amazing job.
Jada, to you on this. As we all know in the stories of life, there are these endpoints that we focus on, and we tend to maybe oversimplify the existence and what we think about things. It's a 1 or a 0. And throughout all of the interviews, we did see the arc, the great space of the gray, right? The fabric, the texture that all of you were trying to show. One of the things that I especially enjoy are the moments of laughter, the moments of humor. When you were sitting there and interviewing them, what was the through line of the humor, the laughter?
I mean, we actually had a funny moment with, I think Manny has one of the funniest on-screen interviews. He's the photographer from Guam. But Manny is a very jovial guy. And when I first started doing these interviews, I come from a print world and I am sort of used to filling in the silences. And Eugene was like, you have to pause and just let these moments sit. And it was uncomfortable for me at first, and Manny really had a hard time because he is used to the feedback of people laughing at his jokes. But
He's like, this isn't so good this time.
Yeah, he was like, what's going wrong? What's going on? No one's.
He literally said, "I'm dying over here."
Well, Connie too. I mean, she belts him out.
Yeah. Connie came in swinging with with the humor. Yeah. So it was just sort of different energies that people had, and I think Manny just, he was the one who just sort of had to get used to the idea that we weren't going to be laughing, but we still thought he was funny, and we had to. And there's this the way it was filmed is this thing called an iDirect. So. So my face is over here. That's what they're seeing is my face on a screen, but my legs are over here and my face is covered. Yeah. It's to keep them sort of talking into the camera. And I forget where I was going with that. Manny has.
You would laugh.
Yeah, he's a funny photo of me.
He took a picture. I mean, Manny's he's a photographer, so he took this very disembodied picture.
Yeah, so I had to learn how to really be like, I'm laughing inside. I'm not. You're just not hearing it.
Speaking of photography and photojournalism, Timothy, as you look at your approach throughout the series, portraits, stillness, and the way that the energy is that you've wanted to put into every film. Do you get something out of this closeness to stillness in the way that this format is? And if so, what does that bring the story?
I mentioned it earlier, but this is sort of my portraiture come to life, because my portraits are shot in large format with a big 8x10 camera. I take a handful of images, maybe 4 or 5 at the most, and they're always very, very direct. The person's looking into camera. So when the idea for this series started, it was just the idea of it would be powerful to have someone looking into camera and talking right to you. And at the time, that was not really used. I mean, today, everyone does direct to camera because it works so well. But at the time, it was, Earl Morris did it, and before him, Shirley Clark did it in the 60s, but it was very rare. And now we see it, as I said, everywhere, because it really is emotional. You get to see people looking, you feel like you're connecting with them.
You know, Madelyn, I was mentioning this earlier about this is the first of its kind film, and therefore you are part of this precedent. You and your story and your family, your husband and all your children, all the nurses that are here and everybody else's stories that you bring. How does it feel to be part of this noteworthy moment first? And when you think about that noteworthy moment, how does it feel to be amongst these other 14, including DJ Rekha? Does it make you feel different about yourself too during this history-making opportunity?
I felt very honored that they chose me, that they chose my story. I'm a very regular nurse from the Philippines who happens to work here in America, trying to make the best, in our lives and better our future for the children. So I'm really honored that you chose my story to be part of this very unique program. And watching it again tonight, and I shared with Jada, I was so proud that it is so powerful.
Yeah.
The stories are so powerful that they were all individually unique, that we all brought in our strengths, but you can appreciate everyone's life stories, the struggles, the successes, which I'm sure everyone here in the room would, if given the chance, would also share their stories. And that way makes us the very good fabric that we call now America.
Yeah. And DJ Rekha, for you, same sort of question here. And did you see a different part of yourself because you're sitting within this portrait of 15 people?
Hello? Yeah, there we go. Might have been muted from the board. Well, first thing I'm going to say, and I'm going to try not to forget the question, is if my mom was here today, she's always with me because she's no longer on this earth. The first thing she would do after this is she would come and run up to you and say, I'm a nurse too. And I know that. So your story, every time I watch it, it's very hard to get through.
Here's to your mom, yeah.
And she also got involved in a Indian Nursing Association and so on and so forth, and it gave her so much. And she just gave. It was in her to do that. In terms of being in this this group of people, I mean, it's quite extraordinary. But more than that, I really have enjoyed. I mean, I'm never going to meet, other than the people we're on panels with, I'm not going to meet those people. Maybe by accident. I was on a Zoom with Kamal Nanjiani once, just for a sound check, Kamel. And, but for me, it's, before I said yes to this, I'm suspicious always. Suspicious of big media trying to do, certain kinds of things. So I want to know who's involved. Because the email came from a guy named Chad. So I'm like, okay, Chad, what do you want to do here? And then, I had gotten the message from him on an email, which is definitely like direct contact, no inside info, the very, Gmail public email. I was like, and then usually the email comes through some sort of personal email or the other work emails. And then I, looked into who's involved, and somebody who works with me, Salim Gondal, is also a filmmaker, and I'm also EPing his film project. And he's like, oh, no, my friend is involved. They're the DP. I'm like, okay, that feels good. And then I watched this guy's film. And then I also knew very much about the list. And I've also saw the Toni Morrison documentary. So, those little pieces to me give me reason to say, okay, obviously HBO, duh, I want to do it. But I'm suspicious of those things because I've been around the media block a little bit in my, minor minor notoriety in this town. And so I'm very, I have like very low expectations, very cautious. But I was extremely, and I've said this before, pleasantly surprised in actually doing the interview because they did their homework. They really did their homework. And I'm not used to that because my story is pretty, so first question, how did you start? It's like a 5-minute interview. I'm like, really? Like, let's, I didn't have to explain my background. They went right into things and asked me very specific questions, and it felt kind of good, And it made me feel like you actually like looked into who I really am, So that was really great.
Hats off to y'all for doing that. Thank you, DJ Rekha. We have 60 seconds, maybe 120, but we have a mic, and I just want to get 3 15-second remarks or questions. 15 seconds, that's it. We have one all the way on the right here.
While that's going up there, I just want to shout out Teen and Win with HBO, as well as the rest of the HBO team for being such supporters and champions of the project. This wouldn't be here without their advocacy and championing.
Right here on the right side.
Hi, my name is Bonnie. I'm Australian. You can tell by the accent.
That's 10 seconds.
Sorry, I'll be really quick. Thank you so much for this panel and, I'm nervous. And the stories, they're really beautiful. I resonated with being Filipino myself. My big question is, what were the interview questions that you asked to get the kind of meaningful and beautiful stories?
Okay, that's one question. We're going to get all three at the same time, and then with a reaction because we're at the end of the night. At the top there, in the red shirt. One more time. Okay, now you can go.
For the director, what do you want us to take away in 2026 about the AAPI community by watching this?
Thank you so much. One last one. Anybody else? Is it down here in front? Anybody else? Hopefully somebody at the top. Nobody? Okay, let's take these two questions then. Who would start? Who would like to answer the first one about the questions?
So the first question we asked Rekha was about the record collection and how big their record collection was. And so that got things started that way.
Yeah, I could talk about that for days. So.
With Madelyn, actually, unfortunately, we did start a little bit more with like a sort of like, tell us sort of like about your background and heritage. It was more traditional. But I think what stays with me is that you reminded me that the Philippines is made up of 7,100 islands. And
7,100.
Yes, exactly. And so I think that was part of the process within our process was to make sure we were stalking them online, basically, to learn as much about them as we could. And through that process, not just have the film be about community, but have the process be about building community and really learning about each other and really listening. The 2026 question, and I think I'll open that up to anybody. I think the two things that come to mind, one, if you split out we should split out the PI from the AA because we should be talking about places like Guam, like we talk about Puerto Rico. Are they states? Do they want to be countries of their own? Why don't we talk about that? And everything that happens in the Pacific Islands gets ignored because of that. Secondly, learn our histories and tell our stories because these stories are being erased. We're being asked to step back, and we all need to step forward together to be able to make sure that we can exist in this country and live the lives that we want to live.
Eugene, I'm going to finish with the... I'm going to finish with the last line of the film as we finish our discussion here. Why was that the last line of the film?
Because I think we're all looking for home in one way or another. Like us being here means that we are displaced. We do not have ancestral connections to this land if we are all here, including NHPI folks who, if they're here, they're obviously not on the islands. So we're looking for home, and we're hoping that our film can be part of the process of all of us feeling like we have a home here.
Thank you to all of our panelists. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Oh, you want it.
Asian. I don't big myself up.
So the closing track of the film, which we, out of respect, sat and listened to and enjoyed, was written by DJ Rekha as well as their partner in that, who, if you could stand up and please be recognized as well. Yes.
Producer extraordinaire, Kriti.
The assignment was to basically make an Asian American song.
Yeah, thanks, Eugene. You gave me like a week to do it,
You're
but it's
welcome.
okay. It's okay. We got it done. We got it done.
Have a great night, everybody.